basically right. Whenever we get any campus grads in our organizations, we will directly pick them up into the team. And I have lots of campus grads who has just graduated, and they have been trained with RPA technologies on any one of the application. And also they've been trained with multiple technologies in parallel. So as long as the person has a technical flavor and he's good in its logistics and analytical skills, they were able to definitely run the show. Absolutely easy to take this role further, and any kind of role you would say.
Sure, thanks. Now let me move on to the next question and try to find out from you, what out of these various roles that I call out would actually be good for entry level, and for the rest of the roles. Yeah, I can see Shailja also joining back now. Okay, let's carry on. So which roles are good as entry level, and if that's the entry level role, what kind of qualification or skills might be required for that? Shailja, can you hear us well now?
Yes,
okay,
I can.
Fantastic. So I passed on your question to Prabha. So the question that I have for you now is, out of the various roles that I call out, if you could help me understand which are the entry level roles, and what kind of qualifications or things should be required for them. The first one, of course, being RPA developer.
I think for RPA developer, basic understanding of coding, programming is required, with especially some of the new age tools, whether it is Python. Also, we have the various automation providers giving a lot of training. Blue Prism, we have their help them learn. And whilst those are the technical skills, from a business perspective, I need people to have like a business analyst mindset, i.e. being able to understand how will the user interface work, usability of it, how to make it intuitive, how to kind of design it such that the exceptions are minimal, and if there are exceptions, the exceptions can fall into a particular area where they can be worked. I think a little bit of a problem solving and programming mindset, plus I would say good work ethic, right? You're all at learning stage. It's very important that you join any organization with a very open mindset and with keenness to learn, but also bring your originality in that you start questioning some of the standard practices that have been followed. So I would say a curious mindset, a programming mindset, attention to detail, and focus on customer centricity or user interface.
RPA Test Engineer and RPA Support Engineer.
RPA testing junior should be like a forensic investigator, right? That you want to really test in such a way that it can't break. It works in all possible scenarios. So a bit of scenario planning is required to ensure that you got the right test scenarios. One also needs to understand if doing something in a particular step breaks something elsewhere. So a little bit of front to back thinking is required as well. So it's, to me, that coupled with being able to spot minor issues, because sometimes what is small in testing could become a very large issue in production, because the volumes and the extent to which a particular code works in production is vast compared to how it runs in a testing setup. So that imagination coupled with business knowledge is very important at a testing level.
Right. So Prabha, let me move on to you with the next role, which is Implementation Specialist RPA.
Okay.
What kind of experience does a person need to move into that kind of a role?
So I have hands-on experience with the implementation of other technologies, Java, C#, J2EE, and .NET, or even mainframe. They will be able to quickly catch up with this RPA implementation.
How about RPA Solutions Architect?
RPA Solution Architect, yes, of course. If the person is actually having a hands-on experience in business analysis role and subject matter expert, and any product owner or product manager role, they can definitely work on getting this role played very effectively, because the process is not going to change, right? It's kind of a process re-engineering work we are going to do. So as long as the person has been worked on any product development, any prototype modeling, and that kind of business analysis activities, they will find it very easy to get this this RPA solution architect. Well played. Yeah.
Moving to the next one, which is RPA Trainer.
RPA Trainer, the person should have mentoring skills, training skills, of course, and if the person is able to learn the application quickly and think through it logically, and having analytical skills, etc., they can definitely play this RPA Trainer. They should definitely have a mentoring and training skills.
Right. Shalja, RPA Process Consultant.
The RPA Process Consultant, we know that in India, we've taken the Toyota way of quality, and we've kind of made that stream for BPO processing in India. So, it's that whole lean mentality, continuous process improvement mindset, looking at elimination, optimization, identifying, activities. So I would think somebody who's trained in lean, or who's trained in Six Sigma, or any kind of a process excellence kind of a process would start to become a good process consultant. What also is very important is the problem solving skills, because often what happens is the way a particular application presents itself, or a tool itself, it's not automation ready. And we often get stuck there. Oh, I'm not able to extract this from here. What do I do? And that's where you need the process consultant to say, okay, can I go upstream and get the data? Or can I take this data, park it somewhere, which I can then start using for my automation? How many times is the same data being used upstream and downstream? Can I kind of make a pseudo data field or pseudo database from where I can start using the data and then write back to the main system of records? So I think problem solving, Six Sigma, lean skills, the ability to question why, and the ability to kind of think of the end-to-end process as against the individual process steps. Often we automate steps, whilst we'll say, oh, I've developed 10 bots. Yeah, but the 10 bots are equivalent to how many people's work. We are unable to quantify that, which means your ROI, which is the return on investment, doesn't stack up, right?
Right.
That is one. The only other piece I would also put is to think of resilience. Remember, whenever we are putting automation in, we are taking the manual effort away and we're putting automation. So the automation has to be A, resilient, B, it also has to be in sync with whatever change we do in the underlying applications. Otherwise, the code will break, which doesn't really help. So to have the change mindset that we keep it in sync with what's happening in the lower application. So change along with business, but change also along with the technology. I think those are some of the skills required for a process consultant.
Fantastic. This is a thing for all the students and participants on this webinar. Please type in your questions in the chat box, so that once I'm through with my questions, I would be taking up your questions with Shalja Garu as well as Prabha Garu. So Shalja Garu, continuing with you itself, wanted to understand what kind of experiences you have seen with entry level resources that are coming directly from the colleges to you.
So Shrikant Garu, I think in all fairness, I think COVID has been very unfair to the students, right? It has taken away the fun years of college. So I feel for this generation who's kind of missed on that. My personal experience is they come with a lot of theoretical knowledge, right? The industry application is missing, right? And so when kids are coming from, and I say kids, I have a 22-year-old son, so you have to bear with me as I say that. When we have very junior resources coming in, it's important that they apply what they have learned in a business context. And for that, I think one needs to understand what are the core business systems, but most importantly, what are the business outcomes that we are trying to drive? And I'll give some examples, right? I'm sure we discussed industries. So if I look at the traditional industries that we still operate in, healthcare, life sciences, these all have the burden of legacy systems. But the pandemic has forced those industries to look at agile and responsiveness to the client. So this is on one end of the spectrum. The other set of industries which have really expanded and grown is retail, e-commerce, your digital native. All those have really shaped how we look at the entire software industry today. So you have two extremes. How do you kind of start to then derive what are the business outcomes, right? In a financial industry, business outcome is accuracy, right? Regulatory compliance. In a healthcare, or even in insurance, it's about claims, right? That when somebody raises a claim, the claim is processed, right? Such that there's no regulatory impact, but also the end customer gets it. So to me, I think understanding whichever domain you get into, right? So pick a domain, but when you get into a domain, you're doing for banking, you're doing for retail, or you're doing for healthcare, understand the domain. And as an end customer, all of you also consume these services, right? We are, at the end of the day, we are a services industry. What would you like to see as top service? I think that is very important, and then relating what we do on a daily basis to that is very important. Otherwise, it's very easy. Students say, oh, I had, this script. Oh, it's okay. In production, we had like 10 bugs. Oh, this thing didn't get in testing. But that production bug would have led to an outage who needed urgent medical care from wrong payment going to the wrong person, which is a lot of trauma. So understanding the impact is very important, because it kind of brings the sense of seriousness into what we are doing. It's not just a line of code. It's just not one particular transaction that we are doing. We are processing millions and trillions, right? And your code is the base for that. I think that is one. The second one, I think, is work ethics. I cannot emphasize enough on this, right? There is no shortcut to hard work, right? No matter what people tell you, right? There's no shortcut to hard work, because when you know how something is done, nobody can take that away from you. That stays with you for a life. So you have to learn things. Okay, this is how we can do it. And then you can start improvising. Actually, you know what? There's a better way of doing it. But you have to learn things yourself. This is not where Google will help you. This is not where a friend will help you, right? You can't take a senior's record and say, oh, I know how this is done. I think that pretty much ends at the college life, right? So that, I think, is hard work. Third one is, please don't think that you finished college, so your learning finishes. No, your learning starts, right? For you to be successful in a corporate career, you have to learn, right? When I started working 25 years ago, we didn't know what automation was. Automation perhaps would be like a robo moving in one of the Tata plants, right? That's probably my imagination of robotics. Today, we apply it in business processes. If you're not up to date with what's happening, if you do not know what's happening in the world, especially in the domain and in the field that you have picked up, then you would be very obsolete. So constant learning, deep domain, ethics. I think those are the three that we would also put. I think that's very important.
Excellent. Thanks. So, Prabhakaran, let me move to you. And you spoke about these various RPA applications, etc. If you could also help us understand some of the challenging factors that are there whenever you try to create an automation solution.
Sorry, I lost you in between. What was the last answer?
Sorry, I was asking about, the challenging factors using, an application software, an RPA application for creating automation solutions. What are the challenges that you come across? And typically when you are, I'm sure you would have as part of your team some entry-level freshers.
Yep. So challenges, if you ask me, I'll have this. Okay, so first one, I'll answer for your first question. So whenever we do automation, during our process analysis, we find it whether if the process is well defined and data are like well structured and they have a very logical path to handle the process between the applications, right? So that is one of the biggest challenges. If the process is not logically handled and if there is no proper data structure is being maintained, then it will be little challenging in terms of automating the solution, because we have to, for unstructured data, we have to apply the intelligent automation where you have to use other technologies like optical character recognitions engine, OCR engines plugged in with this particular applications. And another one is type of the application. So whenever you have any URL based application or any desktop based applications, it will be good way of doing it. But if at all you have through Citrix or any other environment gateway, then it will be challenging when you are doing our automation. And of course for the mainframe applications also. So based on these entry criteria, we will categorize whether it is a medium or normal or complex use cases for automation. See, of course, we can say nothing is impossible here. We can do it, but based on these challenging factors, we will consider that as a complex or medium or normal. To answer your second question, I have recruited a lot of campus grads who were highly energetic, vibrant, and more enthusiastic to learn things, right? So, and I don't find them getting into the work after we have our enough needed trainings and certification done. But initially, for at least 6 months to 1 year, some of the senior folks should help them in terms of understanding the delivery model and connecting with multiple stakeholders and get the risk and issues addressed on time. So other than that, they're absolutely fine in terms of technical deriving our automation solutions.
Thank you. Very important point, and it's good to see that organizations such as yours are ready to mentor these people, because I think 60 to 70% of our students who are in colleges today, their parents haven't been to one. They're all first generation learners, and to all the college TPOs, principals, faculty members who are on this call, I think the onus is on us to help them, guide them into the right kind of careers. And that's why today we have got both these role models over here, Shailja Garu as well as Prabha Garu, who can inspire our students to choose careers in RPA itself. So let me continue this discussion and talk about Shailja Garu, in case you can also help me understand. You spoke about a lot of industries, right? But from a Telangana perspective, because we have our students across Telangana, and now we are also moving to tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities. In fact, happy to also mention over here that we'll be starting a center in Asifabad also, which is, right the border district itself and a tribal district where TASK will be setting up a center, and we would be offering trainings on, all kinds of programs. So help me understand, what are the industries? And you spoke about many of them, but I would like you to focus on a couple of them and also tell us whether those students, for example, in construction, probably we can use RPA, but then should the person be from computer science and get some knowledge about construction and civil engineering? Or should it be civil engineers who would take a course on RPA separately? How does this thing work in the industries, and which are the industries where job opportunities exist today?
As I said, given the ecosystem we have here in Telangana, the industry has been growing significantly, right? So if I take the example, what you said, if it is a construction company, my suggestion would be that it should be civil engineers who then understand automation, because they will already have the understanding of the materials, the angles, the fulcrum. My uncle is a civil engineer, so he often teaches me how to do that. And it's important, right? What's the load balancing, etc. And then you're looking at automation in terms of how to get to the precision of design, how to get the right load balancing, how do you kind of, reduce the time you need to kind of do the planning of the foundation, etc. We are also seeing in construction in other countries, we are now seeing 3D printing of houses, right? This is especially being given to the economically poorer sections, and it is actually found that the 3D printed houses are far cheaper than traditional houses, right? So I think something like that, it also is That to me is a more blue collar sector. Irrespective of how much digitization we do, and I come from banking, so maybe I'm biased, the traditional financial services are very important in this. And Prabha garu here also is from a bank, right? We will continue to make payments, right? We continue to transact in money until humankind finds a different way of dealing with it. Money continues to be there. It's just that what used to be more of physical money has now become electronic money, right? And that has really opened up a lot in terms of automation. Manaki India lo we have a fantastic case study, UPI and Cheppi, United Payment Interface. It is revolutionary. It's one of a kind. Very few countries have been able to drive electronic payments the way we have driven in India. And look at the amount of automation that has happened there, right? Look at the instantaneous way in which those payments happen. So that, just imagine how much of technology and automation has gone into that, right? And it is irrespective of the value. So banking, because of the traditional model that has been there in that, continues to be an area where we see growth. And Manaki, if we look at Hyderabad, I've seen a number of banks who are expanding in Hyderabad, right? State Street unnaru, Bank of America unnaru, JP Morgan Chase unnaru, HSBC unnaru, right? And we continue to see even Mass Mutual Petter insurance company who opened their shop, right? In addition to services company like us, which is Cognizant, and our peers in this thing, we have a huge demand. And if you look at any of these, about 30 to 35% of the industry is banking and financial services, right? That is one. And historically, we've supported the US business, right? And there also the banking and financial system continues to be the backbone. Then if you look at insurance, and insurance image demand baga perigindi. We've had a lot of catastrophic events in the world because of the climate change, right? So danto claims insurance, how to kind of do claims. Even in banking, for example, electronic payments law, how to kind of take care of fraud, disputes, ivanni unnai. So there is a lot of underlying work where there is a huge potential to automate, right? So if I just take one industry, then if we move to healthcare life sciences, I think this is one of the most intriguing industries of our time. We have overcome COVID collectively as mankind, and hats off to the people who invented the vaccines under tremendous pressure. And also that there's a lot of stuff there. There is stuff like pharmacovigilance, adverse event reporting, right? Also supporting in terms of trials vaccine trials. Evaluation of those trials requires a lot of automation to be done because you're processing a lot of data, and we have to be accurate to the nth decimal point. We cannot afford to go wrong on those things, whether it is introduction of new drugs or introduction of new vaccines or new medicines, right? That we are battling, not just pandemic, there's so many other things. That testing, data processing, what Prabha was also alluding to, is very important, and that can only be done by automation, not by a physical thing. So that industry, again, a traditional industry, which requires a lot of data analysts, automation experts, analytics experts, is growing hugely. Manaki ikkada Novartis unnaru as an example, right? And there's so many other firms who are setting that. And if I then move to the retail, the ever emerging retail, right? We've seen a revolution in retail in India. Manaki, we have so many local firms, plus we also have seen international firms. We now have delivery services, food delivery services, specialist delivery services, transit services, courier services. There's a whole logistics that happens behind these e-commerce. That logistics is a big industry to go after. In a country like India, which is so big, manaki itla, whole warehouses unnai, network undi. Andulo again, automation is important because you need a package tracked. You need to ensure that the end customer is informed. Manaki SMS kavali, na package eppudu ostondani cheppesi, right? OTP ravali package vachaka. All that is driven by automation, right? So logistics in the context of manufacturing, more in the consumer goods side, I see a huge demand simply because of the volume. And our volume manual ga cheyalemandi. Automation cheste, then we are able to look at it from a volume perspective, right? We are able to transmit. I think broadly, if I look at that, and I'm not even going near the pure tech, right? The Apples and the Facebooks and the Amazons and the Googles, they are like the biggest consumers, and they have a huge demand. And again, we have them establishing shops here. So I think all of that, there is huge potential in terms of jobs, right? The traditional models to go after the digital models, and that transition can only happen with automation because not everybody can do a underlying infrastructure transformation. That's just too
Right.
expensive, and it's also time consuming. Whereas
Absolutely.
with automation, we can actually start getting some incremental changes. So this is probably what we all need to focus. To do so much happening in the ecosystem, this happening in the world. Start picking the things that you are passionate about. Automatically, then learning will happen naturally because you're so interested in it. You can pursue it, and opportunities are plenty. We are growing at an alarming rate in this country, right? So opportunities aithe unnayandi. It is about how we apply ourselves to each of the opportunities.
Fantastic. Thanks for talking about all these various things. And in fact, it's interesting that you mentioned Mass Mutual, because that's where we met for the first time. We had this conversation about how we can skill people in these kinds of emerging technologies. So interesting. So Prabhakaru, I want to move on to you with something. And my crystal ball gazing says that today, while interviews are happening physically, they were happening physically. Now most of the interviews are happening virtually. And tomorrow we are talking about bots actually conducting these interviews. So how does a student prepare for an interview? See, typically when you were knowing, we always used to say that, look, go through the LinkedIn profile of the interviewer so that you understand what the person is all about.
Yep.
But when a bot conducts an interview, then how do you prepare yourself? So what should the students do tomorrow, preparing themselves for an interview with the bot?
Okay. That's actually a very interesting question, Srikanth. It's like you're thinking way out of the box.
Yes.
Maybe I can have that as one of the patentable idea. Thanks for letting me that. See, actually, it is possible. Okay, so that's what I said. Like, no, there are two types of automation solutions we have. One is like a non-intelligent automation, which is like a business rules oriented and handling structured data. So we do have a intelligent automation, which we like typically sees like chatbot or like in facial recognition in Facebook and all, right? We quite normally see that in our day-to-day life activities. If at all you search for any product in Amazon, when you open your Facebook, you get that related products display in your Facebook. How they are finding it, because they are like actually measuring your thought process and your interest in the market, what you are like trying to browse in normal like market networks, right? So similarly, we have automated many process here, like delivering the laptop request and requesting a technology request for the new joiners. And of course, I have filed a few patents, like creating a security code for the new joiners using that application. So that bot can go and pick up the data of the customer or the new joiners and create that security code for them and communicate it to them to their mail ID. So as long as, right, being as a human, when we are conducting interviews, we are also well prepared, right? So we have a set of questions, we go through their profiles, we understand their areas of like interest and their like competencies, skills, etc. So we can have that as a combination of intelligent and non-intelligent bot, I could say. So wherever we can apply this business rules oriented, where you have a checklist points to check all the pre-prepared questions which can be asked by the bot, that we can execute. Another one is like intelligent bot which can go screen the profile of the interview and see what is his potential skill set and what is his area's interest. Based on that, the bot can also form their own questions. So that's kind of intelligent automation. So it is kind of a mixed business rule oriented and like unstructured applying into AML concepts for that. So it's a combination of intelligent and non-intelligent bot, I would say. But it's a good thought process, Srikanth. Yeah.
Interesting, yes, and of course, a couple of years ago in Hyderabad itself, when the first humanoid had come down here during the the World IT Forum itself, and NASSCOM Forum was also going on at that time, and given my previous avatar where I was the CEO of NASSCOM Forum, I came across and I asked the developer of that humanoid itself that what if Alan Turing would meet the humanoid, what would the conversation be about? And David said only one thing: endless possibilities. And that's what probably robotic process automation is all about. So let me take up some questions from the students itself, and I will request all the students to keep on chatting and putting their questions in the chat box so that we can ask our panelists those questions. So Roja is asking, is RPA affordable to learn, develop, and implement? Prabha, would you take a go at it?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, Roja is asking, is RPA affordable to learn, develop, and implement?
Yes, of course. So whenever you learn any technology, right, any RPA technology like UiPath, Blue Prism, automation anywhere, you have a self developed learning sites where you can go and learn for as a developer, as an implementer also, deployer also. So it has its basic concepts, prototype modeling, some use case demos, and also this implementation process. Yes, you can be well trained on yourself, self-trained as a developer and also the implementer. Yeah.
Shreya Garu, would you like to add anything to it?
It is affordable, Andy. I agree with Priya Garu. I think Prabha Garu. So as I said, tools like UiPath, I think their academy actually is free and people can learn online about it, which is a good thing. It's used a lot in the business process outsourcing space. Even implementation. I think if we apply some of the tenets that Prabha was mentioning earlier, i.e., is it a process that is good for automation? Is it a good candidate for automation? Then from an investment perspective, it makes sense. That assessment of a process for automation is key for the best ROI. We take an exception process with low volumes, high complexity, a lot of judgment, and then we want to get an ROI on that, then it will be investment heavy and the returns will be low. But for high volume, what we discussed, high traffic, low touch processes, automation actually is easy to implement and delivers huge results. And this is again something those in automation should learn to start to kind of grade those as, easy or medium and complex, both in terms of the process as well as the ease of implementation. And that will give somebody a heat map in terms of what are the ones we should go after in phase 1 automation. And maybe that 3-on-3 bucket, right? Most complex and least volumes. Ideally, we should not try to automate it. We should try to see if we can eliminate that through better business rules or something. So from that perspective, yes, it is very affordable. It also is quick to implement. We've done automation sometimes in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, right? Which is fantastic because the results are there and it is very handy from a business outcome perspective. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. Prabhakar, would you like us to share one of your slides about UiPath, since both of you spoke about UiPath Academy link for self-learning. So can I request the administrator to move to the UiPath Academy link for self-learning, please? The next one. Yeah. Would you like to explain this, Prabhakaru?
Yeah, I'll do that. Give me a minute. So it's not so visible here. Let me just take that. Give me 1 minute. Should come.
Sure.
1 minute. I'm just opening it here. Sorry, it's very small here, so I'll just open it.
Yeah. Would you want me to read it or?
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
I got it.
In the meantime, Roja seems to be a convert and she's asking the second question also.
Yeah.
And also, what are the basic technologies required to learn for freshers? So while Prabhakaru is looking at that, Shreya Garu, if you could talk about it.
I would say definitely we are using Python for some of the quick automation. Alteryx, especially when it comes to finance automation. But the tools are UiPath, Automation Anywhere. అందులో there are again tools, they're called task capture. Then there are also, we have process mapping tools which are available. There is a whole suite of tools available in these which helps process analysis, right? BPM tools. I think these are all the ones that are required for us to really start getting into this space.
Okay. Yeah, Prabhakar, over to you.
So in the link which I shared, right, I have shared the UiPath Academy link for self-learning. If you get into this account.uipath.com login, which allows you to self-register on yourself. You can use your corp mail ID. If at all they have a tie-up with UiPath Academy and they have this enrollment facility enabled, then you can probably use your corp mail ID as your user ID, or else it is allowed to use your personal mail ID also as your user ID. So there are different form of trainings. If you wanted to learn developer foundation, duration is only 39 hours, and advanced developer is 43 hours. As someone asked this question, right? So if you wanted to get well versed with the implementation process, you can go through this training, RPA Implementation Manager Foundation, which again takes 30 minutes of time. And if at all someone wants to explore as a business analyst, you have RPA Business Analyst Foundation, which is again 30 hours of duration of course, which you have that. So major components, if you ask me, so because sorry, I have just taken only the UiPath application here. We have three types of major components. One is Studio, Orchestrator, and Robot. Studio is something where you actually design your solution and flow through with the different process and integrate the applications, which all been done through the UiPath Studio, which can be installed in your developer machine directly if at all you have a license for that. And Orchestrator is something like a repository where you can say that all the components which get integrated will be placed over there. We have different types of orchestrated developer, UX, and production, where you will have all the applications components integrated, where you can do our deployment. So when you are a implementation manager, you will precisely use this UiPath Orchestrator. Robot is of course something what you are developing as a solution, right? So for one HVD solution, we can have one bot. So if you want to have 2-3 bots for the similar solution, you can have 2-3 different HVDs integrated, plugged in, and the bot can run from there. So these are three major components in UiPath standpoint. Similarly, we have a Blue Prism Studio, and we have this deployment packages in Blue Prism. So the architecture altogether, I say it will be common, very common across all the RPA applications.
Right. The next question is from Monica Rathod, where she's saying, in future, all works are done by artificial intelligence only. So this is a worrying question for her. So who will take a go at it? Okay.
I can take that. See, I think the area where we are, it's called knowledge workers, right? So what we are saying is manual tasks that do not necessarily require your analytical power, thinking power, right? Let's automate those. But remember the domain knowledge, the business rules, how we want systems to work, how we want customer experience to be, that continues to be with humans. We see at the end of the day, it's the human which is programming the bot, right? Not vice versa. So that domain knowledge, the innovation capabilities, the ability to do things newly, respond to the market, I think those are all the jobs that will be done by humans only. What we are looking at is repetitive, mundane tasks that necessarily follow rules and do not require judgment. We are saying, let's go for automation for better quality, higher volume, and better throughput. As an example, these bots can work 24/7. So there's no need for us to kind of stop something on a weekend. But with humans, I think what we are looking at is their domain knowledge, their innovation, their problem-solving skills, also their ability to control and develop more bots. I think those will continue to be the jobs of the future, that the humans will continue to be moving up the value chain, but the low value processes are the ones done by the bots.
Right. Last question for the day, major skills that are required to crack RPA. Prabha, would you go for it?
Yeah, so if you ask me, even a freshers can learn RPA and become a very efficient, talented RPA developers altogether. So I don't think that technology is a constraint here. As long as you are logically good enough, your analytical skills are really good, and you have you are enthusiastic to learn and adapt with the new technology, and you are good to go. But in addition, if at all you have any hands-on experience and learned C#, .NET, Java, or any mainframe technology, Visual Basic or whatnot, so if at all you have any standard basic technical background along with your good capability, analytical skills, and logistical skills, it will definitely help. Yeah, that's a main point here.
Thanks. There are multiple more questions, but I think we have already completed our time. So probably the last question which I'll ask is a quick fire round question to both of you. What would you suggest to our students, 3 words only, regarding RPA? What are the 3 key words that you would like to mention? And your time starts now. So let me start with you, Prabha.
So I always say arise, awake, and not to stop, right? Keep learning, keep moving. That's all.
Okay. Shailja Garu?
I think I would only say change is constant. If we can accept that, I think corporate life, work life will be very, very good. Change is constant.
Fantastic. And I would say automation. RPA is what you should look at, aspire to it. And of course, the other thing would be WIN. Keep on watching, keep on being part of What Industries Need series. If we could move to the next slide, please, so that, yeah, thank you very much. So the next one is on 22nd. It should have been on 15th, but 15th being a holiday, we are doing it on 22nd, and that would be on data analytics. So look forward to seeing all the participants over there. I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists who actually helped us understand RPA in such a lucid manner, in such a wonderful manner, talking about the various job opportunities, talking about what it entails, what industries you can apply it, how you can get into it. I think thank you very much, Prabha Garu, Shailja Garu, for helping our students, the youth of Telangana, aspire. And I think we could not have had better role models to talk about this than both of you. Thanks to HYSEA and our partner TSAT, because this is also being telecast live on TSAT Nipuna and reaching all the homes across Telangana. So thanks to TSAT, and look forward to seeing you again on 22nd with the WINTalk Career Series, having a topic on data analytics. Thanks everyone. And before I end, wish everyone Andarki Ugadi Subhakankshalu.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.